Hey everybody, I'm sure if you're a shooter and you're on Facebook or even looking at YouTube a lot, you probably get a lot of ads, as I do, different kind of targets. Um, and one of them that's really caught my eye is the self-healing uh, target. It's a rubber target that you can shoot like a silhouette target, as we like shooting steels. Looks like a steel, shoots like a steel. It shows your shots very well, but then it's self-healing. Just spray over it with paint and you're good to go for the next round. But if you're like me, you're tight. You don't like to spend money, especially the kind of money they want for things like that on the internet. So I'm just going to show you real quick my solution. I started out with a horse stall mat. It's called a stall mat at um, Atwood's. Tractor Supply also has them. It comes in a 4 foot by 6 foot sheet. It's 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's perfect for this application. So I'm going to show you how I made it, and hopefully you can save some money and get back to shooting. So what I've got here is I've already cut the 4 foot by 6 foot mat into several pieces along the lines that I've laid out for my different targets. This one happens to be the FBI bowling pin or milk bottle target. I was able to get 6 of these through the lengthwise, drawn out on the lengthwise of that horse mat. And then on the other side of these, I got 5, I'll call them IDPA centers. If you're familiar with the IDPA target, you've got your head, a square head, and then shoulders. And inside that torso area, there's your A zone, a circle, and then there's your B zone, the -1 area. And I just cut them out, including the A and the B zone. I can hang them on a regular IDPA target, and I'll be able to shoot the A and B zone, self-healing. And if I get anything outside of that, well, I'm not doing very good, am I? Anyway, so I started with that 4x6. I drew all my pattern across there, and then I cut them into smaller sections because those mats are heavy. So I got them into smaller sections, and I get them up here on my workbench, and this is how I start. I've tried several tools for cutting this, and the one I've found best is a coarse blade skill saw. Now you can't just set this at 3/4 of an inch and go to town on it. All you'll do is smoke up the joint. So I set it first. I do all of my cuts for the critical areas for shooting. So I've got my sinus cavity and I've got my center chest cavity. I want to designate those on these targets, so I'm going to cut them very shallowly. And in fact, on my skill saw, if I put it all the way down, the 7.5-inch blade sticks out about 1/8 of an inch, just barely noticeable. And so that's a great cut for cutting these little lines. And that's how I'm going to start. I'm going to go ahead and cut all of my critical zone target lines, and then I'll cut the targets out. So I'm going to do this real quick. Makes a whole lot of noise, makes a little bit of smoke, but I'll be cutting the video so you don't have to see much of that. Here we go. Now I've done my horizontal cuts there. I'm going to show you these next cuts. I'm going to add one extra cut in there, and that's at the top of the head, right here. I've left a little material, it just happened to line up that way, but I've left a little material at the top. I'm going to use that for being able to mount the target on a larger target or a cross beam or whatever. So I'm going to cut this line shallow also so that it designates the top of the head different from the target holder. Now, if I was a good boy, which I've never really been known to be, I would be wearing eye protection and ear protection right now. Seeing as how I just now thought of it, and it's not handy, I'm going to go ahead and finish this thing as is. But I'm telling you, wear ear protection and eye protection when you're doing this. Okay, so I have made my initial cuts, my shallow cuts, very shallow, about 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm ready to start my pattern cuts to cut the targets out. And I'm going to start setting my saw at 1/4 inch depth. And I'm just going to follow all the lines, because if you try to take too much of this at once, you're just going to smoke up the place and you're not going to get very far. So I'm going to make shallow cuts and make a few passes, and I'll eventually get it done. Here we go. I like a clean workspace, so I'm going to blow this off real quick between cuts. Now my second cut, I'm going to raise it to 1/2 inch. I think I can go 1/4 of an inch each time without too much trouble. So I did 1/4 of an inch, now 1/2 an inch. I'll finish up with that 3/4, and then I got a little something special for you. Here we go, last cut, well, almost last cut. I'll set it at just a little bit more than 3/4 of an inch. Let's get her done. I promised you a little something special. That is that, you know, using the skill saw with the circular edged blade, I couldn't get all the way through. So I have to turn this over to finish off these cuts. No big deal. In fact, I'm just going to come up here, cut through almost all the way, then I'll use a utility blade for the rest. Here we go. Still set at 3/4. All right, then there's just a little bit hanging on. I'll just give it a quick snip, zip, zap, pop. That's what we end up with. We're not done yet. We got to be able to hang this thing. Now we could just take it out there to our range and clamp it to our board like that, but you know a lot of guys, you're going to come out to use your range. Pretty soon somebody's going to hit your clamp and they say, oh, I'll get you a new one, and then they never show up again. So we don't want to ruin our clamps. I'll show you a quick way to save your clamps. Just drilling it's going to end up being a 1/2 inch hole. This step drill bit works pretty well for that. last step is I've got this webbing material. I don't even know where I got it, but it's a very strong webbed cloth. You can use whatever, bungee cords, if you want to replace bungee cords. But I've got a whole bunch of this stuff on a roll, and so I'm just going to use it. And I've got a lot of extra because I know that once I tie it on there, and I've got it hanging on my target system, eventually these straps are going to get shot into and break. So I've got a lot of extra so I can repair right there while I'm shooting. I'll show you how that works in just a little bit when we go down to the range. There you have it. Now I can clamp as high up as I want or as close as I want. I'll show you on the range how I do it. We'll be going down there pretty soon. Now what makes this work as a self-healing target is paint. So I'm going to paint this thing real quick before we go down to the range, and then I'll show you how it works at the range. Thank you very much. I'll tell you, I tried using cheap paint for this. I think Lowe's had this very basic paint that was less than $3 a can. But I found out that it takes a whole lot more work and a whole lot more of the paint to cover. So it would take me more than twice as much of the paint, of the cheap paint, as it takes for a little higher quality paint. For this one, I'm using the 2X Ultra Coverage. It's the primer and paint all in one. You can try whatever you want to try, your favorite spray paint, but I want to cover as best I can, as quickly as I can. I don't know. Does that look like something you've seen to purchase? Hey, looky here. I just wanted to show you that I didn't remain stupid. I followed my own advice. I got my eye protection and my ear protection for this last two targets that I've got to cut. Okay, everybody, it's time to test the poor man's self-healing reactive targets. So let's take a gander, yeah? Self-healing. Thank you very much.